that the Governor-General may, by proclamation, which shall be published in the Gazette, declare that a state of public emergency exists for the purposes of Part 2 of the Constitution. And whereas Section 18(3) of the Belize Constitution provides that, in order to have effect, the proclamation must contain a declaration of the Governor-General that he is satisfied that a public emergency has arisen as a result of the outbreak of inter alia infectious disease, and whereas Section 18(4) of the Belize Constitution provides that a proclamation made under Section 18(2) may be made so as to apply only to such part of Belize as may be specified in the proclamation, and whereas Section 18(5) of the Belize Constitution provides that a proclamation made by the Governor-General for the purposes of and in accordance with Section 18 of the Constitution shall, unless previously revoked, remain in force for a period not exceeding 1 month, but may be extended from time to time by a resolution passed by the National Assembly for further periods not exceeding, in respect of each such extension, a period of 12 months, and may be revoked at any time by a resolution of the National Assembly. And whereas, having been satisfied that a public emergency had arisen in the entire country of Belize as a result of the outbreak of the infectious disease known as COVID-19, the Governor-General, by proclamation made on the 1st day of April 2020, by statutory instrument number 45 of 2020, declared that a state of public emergency exists in the entire country of Belize, and that the proclamation shall, unless previously revoked, remain in force for a period not exceeding 1 month, or such longer period not exceeding 12 months, as may be determined by a resolution passed by the National Assembly. And whereas, recognizing that the period of public emergency shall expire at the end of day on the 30th April 2020, and being satisfied that a period of public emergency persists in the entire country of Belize as a result of the outbreak of the infectious disease known as COVID-19, now therefore be it resolved that this Honourable House, being satisfied that a period of public emergency persists in the entire country of Belize as a result of the outbreak of the infectious disease known as COVID-19, hereby extends the period of public emergency in the country of Belize for a further period of 2 months. This motion has the recommendation of the Cabinet.
Honourable Opposition Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It is safe to say that we meet today at a time of great social and economic uncertainty and anxiety in our nation. Despite our prayers and desires, the COVID-19 global pandemic has reached our shores, and although our numbers of confirmed cases are small, the coronavirus is wreaking havoc on every facet of our daily lives. It is yet another example how interconnected we are in this world. Because of the coronavirus, currently our national economy is shut down. Our citizens, for the most part, are still locked down. Our schools and churches are empty. The results of all this is that our people grow increasingly desperate. In these trying times, the people look at us, they are leaders for solutions. They look at us for a sense of purpose and direction. Our first priority, therefore, Madam Speaker, must always be the health and well-being of the Belizean people, all the Belizean people. In this regard, our actions and decisions must be guided and driven by the consensus advice of our medical and health professionals. It must also be grounded in sound, accurate scientific data and information. At the same time, we have a duty and obligation to protect and preserve as best as possible the economic infrastructure and interests of our nation and people. Belize today is under a state of emergency which comes to an end on April 30th. We have been under the siege for many days, for several weeks. Under such circumstances, the question we must now ask is whether or not to extend the state of emergency, and if yes, for how long? After much discussion and deliberation among our party's legal, medical, and economic advisors, our parliamentary caucus has approved our support for an extent to the national state of emergency for 30 days, starting May 1st, 2020. And I'll explain why, Madam Speaker. This is our recommendation because our public health authorities, people with specialization in public health, epidemiology, clinical health, and hospital management, believe that keeping people at home for 30 more days represents our best means of further containing the spread of the coronavirus at this time. Now, this does not mean that if at the end of this 30 days that we may need to extend, we advise that we need to extend the state of emergency, that we would not support it. We just believe that if 30 days, Madam Speaker, should be enough at this time. Now, there is no time for complacency and carelessness or the kind of irresponsible actions that could render meaningless all the progress we have thus far achieved, and need I say with much sacrifice from everyone. As we support a 30 days renewal of the state of emergency, we call on the government, and yes, the National Oversight Committee, which I co-chair, to make full and good use of this time to do the following. One, significantly increase testing for COVID-19 in every district across the country, in the cities, the towns, the villages. We should hire hundreds of people, give them short training courses, and set them out in our towns and our cities, in our communities, in our villages, to hunt down the virus. Identify suspects, test widely, isolate, and if necessary, treat the positive cases. They need to do this in their areas repeatedly until we can overcome this virus. Two, draft and enact an appropriate, relevant, and comprehensive COVID-19 Act, which will provide the legal framework and basis for our public health, national security, and economic sectors to manage our response to this crisis and develop a phased, responsible path to reopening our economy and our country. And we believe that this can be done within the 30 days that we are recommending for the extension of the state are following suit. So we would not be reinventing the wheel. Three, develop a clear and comprehensive food security plan in consultation with our farmers and the agro-productive sector. Our people must be fed, our farmers must survive, and food security is a must for our nation. And fourth, the legal and constitutional rights of our citizens must remain paramount, particularly at a time of a declared state of emergency. The Belizean people have been patient and understanding in their willingness to accept certain limitations on their constitutional rights to move necessary and required for us to win this war against COVID-19. We in the PUP assure the Belizean people that we will always jealously guard their constitutional rights, and we will not support any further limitation to those rights beyond what we believe to be just, reasonable, and essential. Let me state clearly, Madam Speaker, even in the state of emergency, the rule of law must apply and prevail. We remind those in authority, particularly our security forces, that our people must at all times be treated with dignity, respect, and fairness. Madam Speaker, Belize is going through probably its most difficult and challenging times of its young democracy. This is no time for partisan politics. We as leaders have a moral obligation to work together. Today, it is not the UDP or the PUP that's getting sick. It is not just the UDP supporters or the PUP supporters that are losing their jobs. UDP and PUP alike are going hungry. All of us are facing the challenges, and all can and will only be able to survive this crisis together. And so, as the co-chair of the Oversight Committee, I implore the government that we do all that we can to help the people we represent, the people we love, all the Belizean people. Let us do this by ensuring the food assistance program is being managed free of political interference. And if this is so, then let's open it up for scrutiny. The government should have nothing to hide. Of course, Madam Speaker, we realize that we can't keep Belizeans locked up forever. As a country, we can't afford to have the economy on lockdown. We have to come up with a bold economic plan. We must start the conversation about how will we reopen the different sectors of the economy, such as tourism and the Philip Golson International Airport, call centers, the judiciary, and just as important, how we can find ways to provide affordable credit to the thousands of Belizean small businesses. We must be bold and think big. That is why today we in the of Belizean small businesses. Our businesses through long-term low interest rates refinancing loans. We did not take these numbers just out of the air, Madam Speaker, and said 250 million sound good, but it's simply that we came up with this after a lot of consultations that we have been doing with the private sector, with the agro-productive sector, and the different people in the economy, with our stakeholders, and we listen to expert advice. Madam Speaker, I find it a great privilege to be the co-chair of the National Oversight Committee. I promise to do all I can, along with the co-chair, the Prime Minister, and the other committee members, to steer Belize through this crisis as best as we possibly can and work to have a Belize that works for everyone. And with the guidance of our Creator and with the hard work, Belize will prevail. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Sorry, Prime Minister. Yes, Minister. Honourable Member, could you speak into the mic? Is the mic working?
Yes, the mic is working.
Not very well. Can you move a little closer or pull up the mic a little bit?
I rise. Madam Speaker, I rise to support the 2-month extension. And if there is no necessity for the 2 months extension after it is approved by the House of Representatives,
yes,
and if there is no necessity for a month extension, then we abandon that position. Madam Speaker, on the second, and a second, there are some 350 cases in Jamaica. And could I inform this Honorable House, Madam Speaker, that almost half of the 350 cases in Jamaica come from the call centers. The call centers. So we have got to do our research, and we have got to approach this thing in a proper way. I believe that we are going in the right direction, Madam Speaker. We are ahead of the game. We have been given leadership in this COVID-19 fight. The leadership, as far as I'm concerned, is exceptional, and this government will not take praise for no leadership of this COVID-19. This is leadership that is provided by the people of Belize, who advise the Prime Minister and the government of Belize. Madam Speaker, we have got to learn to become mature, politically mature. Everything that is done on this side is not all that wrong, and it is not all that right. Everything from that side is not all that wrong, and is not all that right, Madam Speaker, especially when we are in crunch time. We are talking about the health and the lives and the survival of our nation. Madam Speaker, let us be mature and put politics one side. Let this not be like the ICJ, Madam Speaker. You take a position today, and 2 weeks later, when the hawks get behind your head and your throat, you abandon a position and you take a new position. Belize, Madam Speaker, is the greatest country on earth. There is none greater than this country. We have lovely people, good people, PUP and UDP. We are all one people. Madam Speaker, let us treat this country like that. The food program, Madam Speaker, I want to congratulate the Ministry of Human Development for the program that they have implemented. Madam Speaker, it is not perfect. It is not perfect, but it is working, and as we go along, we tweet here, and they tweet there, and they tweet there, and the program is well underway. We are taking care of our people. Madam Speaker, the social security that is managing the relief that the Belizean people are getting, Madam Speaker, you are talking about 80 plus application. What leaders are to tell the people? 80,000 applications. Madam Speaker, I don't know, like if you got 10 pieces of paper in your hand and you could do it overnight, that 80,000 people, it will have to take a time. First of all, they have to see who could benefit from the program. Approve. When they approve it, then it is sent to Social Security. Social Security then send out a check, etc., etc. When Social Security done, Madam Speaker, Social Security have to send it to the bank. The banking system have another process that they have to use. They're not just you send it at your bank and the social send it at the bank today and you walk in tomorrow and you get the money. There is a process at the bank also. So it will take a time. We must ask people to be patient, to be considerate. You are doing a good job, Belizean people. Do not allow nobody to trick you or to run roughshod over you. We are going in the correct direction, Madam Speaker. The train is on the track. The train, not the rail. We are not to derail this train, Madam Speaker. And God bless this country. God bless the people who sit on those committees who are advising the Prime Minister and the government. God bless us all, and I thank you.
Honorable member from Lakei.
Let me preface my comments by saying that I want government to succeed. I want government to do well. Because if you succeed, we succeed. The reason I fully supported our party leader co-chairing along with the Prime Minister, the National Steering Committee, is it?
Oversight. National Oversight.
National Oversight Committee. Too many committees. Because I thought if ever there was a time that we needed a national unified effort, it was this time. This is a dead effort that requires all hands on deck. It's one that does not discriminate. It knows no geographical or political border, knows no color, no race, no class. It can potentially strike anywhere, anyone, and everyone. I still support the idea of the co-chairing. I still want that to work. But I don't think it precludes us. It prevents us from offering constructive criticism we deem to be necessary. From the outside looking in, it would appear to me that the co-chairing is not without its faults. I naively imagined at the outset that all decisions would have been joint ones. But I'm wrong. I know that our party leader came to this effort with clean hands. He asked for nothing, he demanded nothing. He just wanted to serve in this critical time, and he continues to serve. When I heard on Wednesday that the motion would be presented here at the House for the state of emergency to be extended for 60 days, I immediately said, nah. We should do it for 30 days. And if needs come back, then we come back to the House after 30 days. For this reason, because I felt that the last few weeks have been rough on the Belizean people. And I felt almost instinctively that they would have cringed at the thought of 60 more days, like the previous few weeks. So if for only that reason, I felt like we should have in the first instance, say 30 days, and if needs be, we come back and extend it for however long we think it is required. And I still think that. But I also know that we have to be absolutely honest with the people of Belize, because we are not out of the woods yet. And I'm afraid that the last few days of this victory lap of no new cases, of this talk of easing restrictions, have begun to give our people a false sense of security. I know that in the previous days, the previous weeks, I had begun to see a lot of people wearing masks outside. And over the weekend, I feel like that prevalence of masks has dissipated a bit. I feel like there are less people wearing masks right now. The truth is, Madam Speaker, we are playing with fire. We have only tested 0.25% of our population, you know. In fact, scratch that. It may be less. because I can't say exactly how many of those 936 tests that were administered, how many persons were exactly tested, because I imagine some people were tested more than once. There is no manual or blueprint or roadmap for easing restrictions for coming out of a state of emergency. But we have to be smart and we have to be cautious. This has to be done gradually and carefully, because we can put a real hurting on ourselves if we do this prematurely. What we know for a fact, Madam Speaker, is that opening up of our economy or easing, there has to be testing, so that the truest picture of what's out there is revealed to us. Remember, Madam Speaker, that some experts estimate that a quarter of the people globally who have COVID-19 are asymptomatic. They show no signs. We cannot be sure who has it. The truth is, Madam Speaker, we have done very little testing. Scandalously little testing, if you ask me. I don't think we've done enough testing to warrant this sense of confidence that we have, this sense that we are in the clear zone. Can we say with certainty that we've tested every single person who has come in contact with every single one of our positive cases, and that we've tested them more than once and tested them properly? Can we say that with a straight face? If we can't, then we need to be honest with the Belizean people. The whole world is struggling to get PPEs and tests. I get that. But I think we have to admit that we made a mistake early on in our ordering and procuring of tests. We were ordering tests as if though we could go around to the corner store and pick up more tests when we need, like we were buying sugar and salt, when we should have been ordering tens of thousands of tests. We were ordering a few hundred. The truth is, we still don't quite know the whole story with those 25,000, is it Kitzer tests? I don't even know that we were being gifted by the South Korean government, and why we ended up not accepting that gift. But that's another story for another time. In the meantime, Madam Speaker, every doctor I've spoken to say that before we get into easing of restrictions, before we get into lifting state of emergency, we have to test. We need to test more than just the people who are sick. We need to test the people who are sick and those who are likely to be sick. We need to test the asymptomatic persons who are showing no signs at all. We need to test our healthcare workers, not just our frontline workers, but all the people who work at our various hospitals and clinics. We need to test our police officers, our BDF soldiers, our immigration officers, our customs officers, our tour operators. We need to do random testing in our community, just so that we can identify whether we have some significant silent transmission within our communities. We need to test those who have flus and those without. We need to test those who have gastrointestinal problems, because the symptoms keep changing for this thing. We need to be aggressive with contact tracing, Madam Speaker, because I'm afraid that not enough people are being honest where this thing is concerned. There's like this fear out there People prefer to suffer silently instead of going to the hospital. People prefer to suffer silently than face the scourge and the stigma. People are scared of getting infected at the hospital. So less and less people are really going to the clinics and the hospital. That's what the doctors are saying to me. I think we have to talk to our people seriously. I think we have to remove this stigma that's associated with this thing. This thing could happen to anybody, anywhere, everywhere. It shouldn't be a badge of shame if you get COVID-19. Speaking about the ICJ, I feel like we need to have an ICJ-like media campaign where the communication of the risk of this disease is concerned. If we could have spent tens of millions of dollars to ensure that the message of going to the ICJ was delivered, I think we have to consider how we can spend some money to break down this thing to our people. There are too many of our people who are taking this thing lightly, who are bunched together every day without any regard for social distancing. And they don't see the value in wearing masks. You know, there are Belizeans, Madam Speaker, in the US, I was just told, who are dying 2-3 weeks into recovery. Wake up one morning and experiencing shortness of breath at a time when they should have been long past that. In fact, with your permission, Madam Speaker, I want to read a Facebook post from a lady, Sherilyn Brown. I think it's Sherilyn Godfrey Brown. She was on Creme recently, chronicling for the people of Belize. She lives in New York. She's the wife of Belizean promoter Buddy Brown. And Mrs. Brown and Mr. Brown and their daughter all had COVID-19. And she's been very open and very candid and very selfless in explaining to people here and abroad how deadly this disease is. And she posted yesterday on her Facebook a post that I thought was fitting. She said, "I'm frustrated with this virus/monster, trying to understand the way this monster works. I knew of 2 people who were 2-3 weeks in recovering from this virus. One in her 40s, not sure about any underlying problems, but passed away a week ago. Woke up suddenly with shortness of breath. The second one is my cousin, her cousin, in his 20s, with no underlying problems. He died yesterday morning, from waking up with breathing problems. Shortly after, passed away." She says that scared the crap out of her, because if both were 2 to 3 weeks into recovering, why the shortness of breath came weeks after? Learning of this virus/monster as we go along. Madam Speaker, this thing's serious. I don't need to tell you that. It's very, very serious. Listen, people, we have to start wearing masks for each other. If I wear a mask, I'll protect you. If you wear a mask, you'll protect me. We'll show love for each other. No matter if you're not sexy or you're unsexy, no matter if you're uncomfortable, we need to protect each other. We need to wash our hands every chance we get, even if the skin will look for come off, but that is how we are going to stay safe. And we need to stop trip about being a lockdown. Man, use the opportunity to turn your house into a home, to bond with your family. You're not a disappointment for they're so close to your family. Stop worrying about what they're out there, where they miss. All those things you're missing will be out there when we get on the other side of this thing. But use the opportunity get closer with your family. Everything depends on how we look at struggle. You know, some people get stressed out over struggle. But we have people who are used to struggle. We come from hundreds of years of struggle. So we have to start this struggle as a beautiful thing, as a glorious thing. If we start looking at it like that, then we'll emerge on the other side better than we went in. But government, Madam Speaker, has a massive role to play. Because if government does their job, then there will be no need for people to come out. And people would be allowed to stay home. And I want you to tell me how much people get the socials, they get a grant through SSB. And I want you to tell me how much get a pantry through human development. I want you to tell me how much people apply and don't get it. Backed down by the unwieldy bureaucracy and the games where they play along the way. I think we need to stop playing games. We in here, we older, we know caught up in the Facebook age. But I think some of our colleagues get caught up in that and feel like they need to profile and in the process exploit people at their weakest, in the deprivation. But you're the fool yourself, be. Because no standard bearer can reach everybody. It has to be a state effort. I got 2,000 households in a Lake Independence. No voters, households. If I give every single household $50 a week, I need $100,000 a week. If I'm supposed to provide that for 12 weeks, that's $1.2 million. No poor standard bearer, no standard bearer is supposed to find $1.2 million to deal with those issues. But that's the need, that's the demand. Yes, I will admit, 28,000 persons have gotten the assistance through SSB. But 81,000 people apply. It means 53,000 people were applying to get, and they have to wait. They have started to apply from April 3rd. Process is taking long. People don't apply because they want to apply or they want to hustle, want to leave $100 or something. Almost all of them people qualify. Almost all of them people are Belizeans over the age of 18. They know they're on boost. They know they're on pantry. They know they get no pension. They know the work, they qualify. And then we close off the thing. I don't know why we close off the thing, Father, like we get frightened by the numbers. But the reality is that that's the kind of numbers you're dealing with out here in terms of people who are deprived, who are disadvantaged, who need help. We need to get to them, man. We got 15,000 public officers, 6,000 teachers. You mean we can't find caliber, trusted, competent people to try to speed up the approval process, to try and make this thing get to the people the quickest way it can? Man, a lot of people have a rough Easter, because that money take one while to reach even for the 28,000. In fact, going into Easter, nobody no get it. And just get a good word that it was approved. Man, even though we can't go nowhere, we can't go to Placencia or Chetomal or Kikaka, Easter wired in a way. So for that 4 or 5 days, we want to eat with cross bun. We want to eat one good Easter Sunday dinner. We want to feel like but that money not reach, Madam Speaker. I couldn't believe the money not reach. You know what's safe way? Because we don't give them enough credit. We save with all them Belizean Americans where we send only thing. We send only 50 or only 30 or only 60 US to get with families through. Even though they go through for their own hardship. Because the economy over, they locked down too. So no money not to make neither. But that ain't safe way. Because if you look at the Western Union lines and the MoneyGram lines, for days and days throughout that holiday and beyond. Massive lines. Not the whole up on the money, G. We only spent $3 million so far. That are the figure we're here. And we're there, what, over a month into this thing? Me don't know if we're going to pray that this thing will pass and we don't have to spend much more, but man, make them people get this money, man. They don't know a lot of money what they talk about. That's for we people. I mean, I don't want to tell me about the pantry thing. I don't want to tell me about that. Because you want to tell me that 8,000 people approve, but I'll tell you 33,000 apply. 25,000 no get it. No get it yet. Me and your ballet, you know that. But this thing not for me go to human development. There was a better and easier way to deal with this thing, Madam Speaker. When it got to human development, where people they have to apply, they have to qualify for food. The food with the talk about, you know. The food with the talk about, and we have to qualify for that. So we end up they call a bunch of numbers where hardly anybody the answer. In fact, when it's Saturday, nobody know the answer. Then when you do get an answer, somebody on the other side will carry out you and process some questions. I don't know how much questions. But here we realize, those questions they ask you, they have no way of verifying. So whether the point of the bureaucracy, why would it go through the whole process there? It just not add up to me, man. It's like it's been an unnecessary month of hardship. A month of unnecessary hardship. We should have do better than that, man. The food we deal with. We should have been delivering food house to house across this country. Not miss nobody. We got a BDF. We got a police. We got public officers. We got Red Cross. We got NEMO. Then people could go house to house to deliver food to people. It's been done in Honduras. It's been done in other places. That way they don't miss nobody. That way that the politicians they chill themselves and you make the people now we got the capacity and we got the fairness. We are make sure that everybody get. And don't tell me everybody don't need because you got a lot of middle class people where they take lick right now, you know. Teachers not collect them pay for March 20th. A lot of teachers they hurt. And if we end up in a situation where more people get food than should have, that's far more desirable than we end up in a situation where too little people get food. Madam Speaker, I'll close by saying this. Human lives are not disposable. There is nothing more important than the lives of our people. That has to be our commitment. I know people that talk about the economy and we need to try to get back as soon as possible. I get that. But in my mind, you could recover from economic problems. But you can't recover from premature death. We have to take absolute every precaution to make sure that we preserve our lives. That we lose no life, that we do not have to lose. Madam Speaker, thank you very much.
Honourable Minister of Health.
Madam Speaker, just to clarify and to state the Ministry of Health. The Ministry of Health has epidemiologists. We have a good amount of staff that are advising every single one of us. We are out there nearly every day we put things on Facebook and we advise the public exactly what to do. With testing, there's no one that I know who is afraid of getting tested. Moreover, a lot of people are calling us for us to do testing on everyone. We all know the severity of the COVID-19 around the world, and everyone trying to hold and safeguard what they have in their country. So for us to get the amount of swabs, of test kits that we need, we have to be very careful of how we do things and how we do testing. But one thing we can say, we are doing nearly 3 times as much testing that Mexico is doing. We are doing 4 times more testing than Guatemala is doing. So we are doing the amount of testing needed. And we are testing our frontliners. We are testing people that have the symptoms, that have the flu symptoms, that have respiratory problems. And whenever there is cases, and I'll bring it up like in KHMH, any person that goes into KHMH and they call on us that they believe there's a case, we go immediately and do the test. Just in 2 days, no, in 1 day, we had done 76 tests. That's from yesterday to today. And we are lucky enough that we have nearly 14 days of negative cases in this country. But that doesn't mean that we will not stop doing the tests. That doesn't mean that we will bring down our arms and not continue to do what we need to do and be precautions of everything that we do. But we have to be real of what is happening around the world. Just in Quintana Roo itself, which is in border to Belize, we had 92 cases in 2 days. In the US, I just saw the numbers, it is 6,600 new cases in the US, 56,000 deaths. We have to look at what we do in the epidemiological aspect of things, and we need to ask our people what to do. We cannot open the airports, we cannot open the borders, but yes, we can ask and beg our people that are in the borderline from Mexico to stop cross. We need to safeguard our people, and it is not only will affect that person that is crossing over, it will affect the community and the country at all. So we need to be very careful of what we do and how we do things. I can say that all our people are in panic. Definitely we are in panic. This is a new virus that we don't know exactly what is happening, how it goes about spreading. We see cases in a house that the wife doesn't get the virus, but the kids get the virus. So we don't know exactly how it works. But this, whenever we have a case, we swab that person and we swab every immediate person that is close to that person. And we continue to do that. And we continue to do the swabbing. And we are lucky enough that right now we have 6 cases that are being recovered. So we need to continue to do that. We need to continue to beg our people to continue whenever they go to use their masks, to wash their hands, and not for us to be able to do something drastic because we have 14 days without any case to go about and walking the streets as how they want. Yesterday, I saw in Corozal a couple in the sea taking their bath. I think we need to ask now, this we need to ask the police to start to be more aggressive in what we are doing and think about the future of this country. If we have a massive amount of cases, our country is small enough that we will congest our health care facilities, and we don't want to do that. And we need to applaud the amount of work that our healthcare providers are doing, and we need to maintain that. And if we continue to do what we are asked to do, we will be COVID-free. But we need to follow the regulations and what we are asking for. There's so much that we can do, and we will continue to do with what we have, and we know, and I'll stress it again, this country is doing the amount of tests needed for us to verify who have COVID or not, and we will continue. And I want to give thanks to all the healthcare providers, and may God continue to bless them and protect them. Thank you.
Honorable member from KSL.
Morning, Madam Speaker.
Good morning.
With your permission, Madam Speaker, I'd like to refer to my notes.
Certainly.
Madam Speaker, before I get into my presentation, I would like to really express a heartfelt thank you to all the frontline workers that are working in Belize right now. Some of them are the police, the BDF, the Coast Guard, the doctors and the nurses, Madam Speaker, and all community-spirited and community-oriented people that are doing everything possible to be able to handle this situation of crisis that we are in. Without those people, Madam Speaker, we would be in a much more difficult situation. So, thank you, thank you, thank you. Madam Speaker, in moving forward, we believe that there is the need for a balanced approach in dealing with this coronavirus crisis that is upon us. One that can address all the health and economic needs of the nation with minimal, I mean minimal, infringement of our human and constitutional rights. Our proposal, Madam Speaker, of a 1-month extension of the state of emergency, in our opinion, is a balanced and responsible approach. The reality is, though, Madam Speaker, that there is no need for a state of emergency. Another synonym for that word, state of emergency, is martial law. There is no need for a state of emergency to be able to deal with this crisis on hand. Other countries have shown, and Great Britain being one of them, that it can be done through normal legislation and appropriate regulations. In fact, the United Kingdom has just done theirs. It's called the 2020 Coronavirus Act. This is an emergency legislation, Madam Speaker.
There is a difference between referring to your notes than reading a prepared speech. The member asked that he be allowed to refer to his notes. If he wants to ask you for read one speech and you give permission, I have absolutely no problem with that. But I want everybody to know in Belize that he is not referring to no notes. He is reading a prepared text. We must come in this house and stand up and learn to debate without reading.
Thank you, Member. Kindly proceed.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, in the United Kingdom, they passed a normal legislation to deal with the coronavirus situation, and it's called the 2020 Coronavirus Act. It is an emergency legislation, Madam Speaker, and it says here, the UK emergency legislation establishes the balance between liberty and necessity. Further, Madam Speaker, to draw emergency regulations and enforce them with police action in the context of the national state of emergency, simply on the basis of views of the law expressed by the Prime Minister or his Attorney General or his Commissioner of Police, Madam Speaker, and without the people of Belize having access to court of law to test those views, is a prelude to totalitarian rule. That is a fact, Madam Speaker. As a country and as responsible members of Parliament, Madam Speaker, we must be vigilant. It is our responsibility, Madam Speaker, under this democracy for us to be vigilant that this never happens to our sacred democracy in Belize. So we are highlighting the issues, Madam Speaker, so that people can be aware of what can happen in varied situations. So in summary of that, what we are saying is that, Madam Speaker, there are other means of addressing the exact same problem without having to go to a state of emergency, Madam Speaker. All the rules and regulations required and recommended by the medical experts to fight the COVID-19 can be enacted by the National Assembly in legislation passed in the normal way without delay. and without declaration or extension of any state of emergency. Those rules and regulations simply do not need to operate within the context of any state of emergency. In fact, it is now imperative that they do not. The new law, Madam Speaker, which should be done, and I believe it has to be done, must define the new normal for Belize going forward. So in the meantime, Madam Speaker, because we know what happens in the House, whatever is proposed by government will happen. So what we are saying, Madam Speaker, in that time frame, you need to put the proper legislation in place and you need to put the proper regulations in place. The new law must define the new normal for Belize going forward and must remain in place indefinitely into the future in fashion as the existence of the COVID-19 threat. The certainty of that approach will allow the economy to function as best as it can in the circumstances of the threat by enabling individuals to plan to meet the requirements of the law and learn how best to function within those confines. Regulations cannot be made up, Madam Speaker. And enforced on the whim of only proper regulations in place, Madam Speaker, so the general populace can understand the reality and know within what limits they can work and how they operate within, governed by laws, governed by the rule of law, and enact a graduated scale of lockdowns, each certain in scope and effect, and each triggered by independently variable criteria. The rule of law demands no less, Madam Speaker. We on this side, however, fundamentally believe that we cannot remain in a continuous state of emergency. So the 1-month extension is a fair compromise to adopt until this government consults and establishes a proper normal legislation with all the necessary regulations. That in turn does not infringe with our human and constitutional rights, which is what a state of emergency does. The human and constitutional rights of our people must at all times be protected and guarded, particularly during a period of emergency. Madam Speaker, we cannot sensibly ignore the availability of resources to the people of Belize to sustain life when devising policy to fight the COVID-19. Our national priority at this time should not only be focused on health. The crisis we face is not only medical in nature. The national priority must be the well-being or welfare of the people of Belize. And to define that, Madam Speaker, well-being or welfare requires not only good health, it is the state of being comfortable, healthy, happy, secure, protected, and prosperous. We simply, Madam Speaker, cannot afford to pursue policies born out of panic and fear and designed to promote only health without regard to the availability of critical resources to sustain life. It is the responsibility of a government more than 60 days of a state of emergency and lockdown without guaranteeing them access to food and access to clean potable water or access to a clean source of water, for example. And that I can speak personally on, Madam Speaker, because we are having a serious crisis in Cayo South with most of the villages having absolutely no water. I think the Prime Minister should remember this. I had written him a letter in 2012 addressing the issue of the water problems we are having in Armenia. At that time, he said he didn't have money. I assume the same response will be said now. But we have a problem. So basic human services. We need water and we need food. To extend the state of emergency for 2 months more without in any way addressing the availability of resources to sustain life during this period is beyond negligence and borders on recklessness. And so too is the pursuit of the state of emergency in the face of the inadequate measures we have pursued to address basic needs of the poor. Madam Speaker, the member from Lake Independence just expressed his frustration with the system that's being implemented to address the needs of the people. We know, Madam Speaker, that politics is being played because, Madam Speaker, they are utilizing the same system that was politicized before, which is the Boost program as one example. Everybody knows that the Boost program was designed for political purposes. And now we are using the same system, Madam Speaker, that everybody has been criticizing openly to feed the entire nation or to assist the entire nation. Madam Speaker, it can get even worse. They are gathering now information of the population with the pretext of giving out assistance or food. We are aware, Madam Speaker, that that same information goes back down to the ground in the different constituencies and the information is given to the caretakers that the government have, and that information is being used politically. Madam Speaker, this is a fact. It's just that at this time, most people don't want to express those realities because it's a difficult time. But that is happening. It should be condemned and it should stop because that is now manipulation of private and personal information.
Honourable Member, I hear what you're saying. I know where you're going, but we really need to
Yes, ma'am.
confine your
Yes,
comments to the bill because you spoke about panic. Things like that will create panic. So please be...
Well, it's being aware of the truth.
Just...
Madam Speaker, our proposal to government through our co-chair has always been, we do not recommend that money is given to people, especially from the rural communities, Madam Speaker. What the people require is food. It's a basic concept. And we were telling the government through our co-chair that it should not be done through the political organizations or the political arms. We were recommending that it be done fairly and equitably. Every time our party leader sat with us, that was our recommendation to him. Use the Red Cross. Use UNICEF. Use our security forces. Contact our local leaders. When I mean by leaders, you have village council chairmen, you have alcaldes, you have religious leaders, you have community leaders who are non-political. These are the people, Madam Speaker, in the rural communities that understand, have good knowledge of where everybody lives. You have to understand, Madam Speaker, in the rural community, they are not like, we don't go no street where say George Price Street or Finnegan Market Street or whatever. We don't have that. Up to a mango tree, take on right, go on left, go up the hill. You have to have people that know these environments to be able to have proper and equitable distribution. Why is it that they haven't used the Red Cross, Madam Speaker? What's the problem with the Red Cross? Why have government not approached UNICEF? Why is that, Madam Speaker? Why is government totally abandoning NEMO? We have spent millions and millions and millions of dollars equipping NEMO so that they can be prepared when we have an emergency. Yet, all that organization supposedly, all that financing supposedly, is not being used or is underutilized. So why have it? What's the purpose of having a national emergency management organization? When crisis hits, you push them aside, you don't pay them any mind, and you put it in the hands of other people that have absolutely no clue in how to solve a management of an emergency. That is not being political. That is fair commentary. That is a concern. I think the Prime Minister needs to look at that. If NEMO can be there when a hurricane comes, supposedly, then why is it that they can't deal with distribution of food? They have warehouses, they have trucks, they have people that we pay every single day. They have minister, specific minister. And that minister is a representative of a rural community too, so he knows exactly what the problems we are facing in the rural areas. Just to give you an example, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the following are some general recommendations that we would hope that the Prime Minister would put and take into consideration when he does the necessary legislation and when he puts in the necessary regulations so that we can move forward. Madam Speaker, we can't think about this thing was done in June. And I don't want people to get vexed with me, but coronavirus there it way. You're not going nowhere. You not got no vaccine out there. You understand me? So what happen if we know the thing? You mean we'll come back here 2 months from now and put a next state of emergency because we don't have nothing readily in place? It won't change in 2 months. We have to plan. We have to prioritize. We have to spend our money where it is necessary. We have to stop playing the politics. And one thing I wanted to bring up with this kumbaya that's happening across political lines. There's nothing wrong with the leader of the opposition and the Prime Minister co-chairing, what the thing name? Oversight Committee. But, and we told our party leader, it is important that the opposition remains independent in its way of thinking and proposing. That is critical for a democracy to survive. So, government wants to say, anytime we raise our voice or make a recommendation or do a critique, they say, oh, you're to play politics. It's not that, Madam Speaker. For a democracy to function, it has to have an opposing side giving alternate points of view. That is our responsibility, Madam Speaker. If we give that up, then we give up democracy. The party leader agreed with us. And that, on that premise is when we were more comfortable with his joining, and I applaud him. He was the one pushing it. It is for the people, Madam Speaker, that we are working. But in a democracy, you have to have the ability to express yourself. Just like the media has to have independence so that they can critique, so that our voices can be heard. Once that is stopped, Madam Speaker, and that is what I fear in a state of emergency, once you cease to allow people to express themselves within the democracy, especially opposing parliamentarians, you're now in another system, and that's a dictatorship system. So I just wanted to clarify that situation, Madam Speaker, that yes, we are joined forces, but that doesn't give up our independent right to speak the truth. So these are some recommendations that we are making directly to the Prime Minister. The party leader, to a certain extent, has most of them already, but it is our opportunity for the people to hear some of them. It's not all, it's not in detail, but it gives a general guide as to where we are hoping it can go. we believe, Madam Speaker, that the country should be divided into zones. We have established zones already. We have the districts of Belize, for example. But there are other zones. You have the borders in this specific situation are more specific zones. We have the areas that are trafficked by tourism. So I'll just give two examples. San Pedro, Placencia, maybe another one, Kika. So let's assume we have these zones. Let's say 10 zones in the country. You look at the reality of each zone. You study each zone within the umbrella, because each zone operates differently. Each zones have different realities. And you apply the necessary measures on the zones that have the major problem. For example, Madam Speaker, we did that in San Pedro. It was already done already. And it was fairly successful. I believe it was really successful, what was done. Can't work, they can't move, they are suffering like all of us, but they have not one person that has been tested positive in the entire zone of the South. And so what we are saying, instead of them suffering the same like all of us, maybe some of the businesses could work there a little bit differently than in the areas that are more affected. That's a proposal, Madam Speaker. Because the economy has to move on one way or the other. The Prime Minister knows, the leader of the opposition knows, everybody knows. After 2 months, we will still have to find solutions to work with this coronavirus problem. 2, Madam Speaker, and it has been mentioned already, invest and maintain a high level of rapid tests. That is critical, Madam Speaker. This testing must be done parallel to continuous border control, inter-district control, and monitoring of our main tourism destinations. Madam Speaker, we believe with all the efforts that everybody has been done with advising the party, with all the necessary analysis and investigation that all of us have been able to do, we need at least 100 rapid tests to be done daily in Belize within these 2 months. The United Kingdom, I think right now, is going at 100,000 per day, and they're going up more. And 100 we took off at the Guatemala and Mexico scenario. In reality, Madam Speaker, people are saying we should, in Belize, with the population we have, if we want to make sure, we should be doing like 500 a day. It's important. The member from Lekai, our party leader, everybody has been insisting this is the most critical and most important and should be prioritized. Government should invest in rapid tests. Now, I just asked my colleague here from Lekai, what happened with the 25,000 rapid tests or tests that were supposedly to be donated from South Korea? I think our batch went to Cayman, right? If I'm not mistaken. So, why is it that we didn't accept them? What? Didn't we have equipment? Didn't we have personnel? Why can't we find those? But we can't just stop accepting tests when we drastically need it in this time of crisis. So testing is key, Madam Speaker. Our current testing is inadequate and insufficient. We are lacking in swabs and reagents. We need honest and accurate reports of the true picture as it relates to the testing. We need expanded and decentralized testing in order to be more effective. So far, we have only tested a small percentage of the population when there is still an unknown variable. Where have some of those cases gotten infected? They are not imported cases. This shows, Madam Speaker, and you know more than I do, that there are asymptomatic carriers out there that can possibly be spreading the virus. And the only way we can get under this is more testing, more testing, more testing. Madam Speaker, the way we are testing right now is it's being more or less centralized. If somebody in Kaya district gets a swab done, that has to be sent to Belize City. The technician have to either put it in the machine or not put it in the machine. And you know when you get tested, you sweat, psychologically you're gone, you want to know if you're dead or you're alive. And it reminds me of when people used to go do testing for years. It's the same problem. You see a skeleton front of you. And so it takes a ridiculously long time for the person to get back the result. I have an example in the Kaya district. One person that we know got tested last week it was Tuesday of last week. Today is Monday. And they still haven't gotten their result. So can you imagine what happened Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday? And what could have happened to that person? We don't know. How many people has that person been in contact with? We don't know. Does he know exactly what needs to be done or not need to be done? I believe we have to decentralize it, Madam Speaker. Government, Prime Minister, should invest in having these Madam Speaker, if the private sector is given, and when I mean private sector, not anybody, the medical practitioners, they should have access to these tests free of cost from government, and government should give them a little stipend so that anybody can come to their clinic and get tested. We are not doing that. So I understand what the minister is trying to do and say everything fine and done there, and we are the greatest and happy and better in Mexico and better in Guatemala, but there are recommendations that he needs to listen to. So better talk to your boss. The Prime Minister needs to listen to. This is not about PUP, UDP. This is about the Belizean people. Control of movement between the securitized areas with proper database in place. Well, we talked about the sectors, Madam Speaker, but we need, I passed the checkpoint, all the checkpoint now. And there is no proper monitoring. With all due respect, they pass, vehicle pass, how they want. There is no data collected. There is no medical personnel attached to those police stops. There's no nurses. So, what needs to be done, Madam Speaker, is that monitoring at the border crossing or at the sectorized crossing has to be manned by our security forces, no doubt. But they also should be manned by data entry. People that can enter the data of people moving across these borders. And you should have medical personnel giving rapid tests right there. So if you've got a problem in San Ignacio, the Kaya district, and you need to come to Belize City, you know exactly who is crossing, and you can give them the test right there, having their data and information inputted, so that we can have access to better information, Madam Speaker. That is what I believe should be done. Not me, our organization on this side. And definitely we need to maintain our borders closed for a longer period of time. I know that hurts us economically, but it's got to be done. So these 2 months that will be passed here, well, let's not open the borders. That would be our recommendation. Well, there's another emergency happening parallel to this. You will probably be aware of this, Madam Speaker. In the Kaya district, this is the season where you will have flu, apart from everything we are worrying about with this coronavirus, the medical facilities of this country need to be on high alert because it will be compounded now by what's happening. And Thursday nights, because of the smoke that's happening. I thought it was only Manza, Georgeville, Unitedville, Ontario, Blackman, Kamalote, Roaring Creek, Armenia, St. Margaret, all of the village, Belmopan. We are suffocating. And so I am now, he normally doesn't ever listen to me, but I am still insisting. Prime Minister, we have to out there fire. You got to send in trucks from Belize City, from Corozal, from Orange Walk. We got to send them to Nakayo. Prime Minister, you need to talk to the farmers that have tractors so that they could bring out their bulldozer and stuff to help us clear the bush so that we could stop this fire. We need to be able to ask assistance from our neighboring countries so they could send in some plane for help out the fire. Prime Minister, you need to speak to some of the pilots that do crop dusting so that they could help us ease the pain of the fire. Prime Minister, you need to send Emer Hernandez to Cayo to make it spend some of their money where he take from away and carry it back to the people so that we could stop out this fire. We are spending $158 million on a road to Caracol. No, we need to help the Cayo district, Madam Speaker.
Point of order is taken to all member.
How can it be this? Disgusting. To say the truth, we are you say when you have this power in your head, you know, like when people tell you the truth.
Just a minute, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Kindly speak to the motion and move along with your
This is a
presentation.
state of emergency.
Please do not.
Madam Speaker, you know when I fire Zwando, we are more susceptible to the coronavirus now because of the inhalation of those hazardous smoke.
Actually, you made your
Right
point.
We also have an emergency in the Kaya district that needs to be addressed. There's nothing wrong with that, Prime Minister. Don't take it personal, but that's the truth.
Kindly proceed.
Thank you, Ma'am. Seven, Madam Speaker, we need a comprehensive public-private sector plan to reopen the economy in a phased and responsible way. And our recommendations, I think the Prime Minister has it very clear. So I won't get into that detail, but we need to deal with that. Food security, Madam Speaker. This is an opportunity for this government and any future government to understand that we need food security in this country. For too long, we have been dependent on the importation of food, the importation of unhealthy food.
I'm sorry, member, that's linked to the motion at hand?
Yes, ma'am. Give me a chance, please. People got to eat. You put on a state of emergency, you got to feed them. So yes, it has a lot to do with what we are discussing. Just give me an opportunity to express myself, Madam Speaker, is all I ask. This country, both UDP and PUP administration, we are dependent on imported food products. Unhealthy food products, Madam Speaker. Ramen, for example. You know that that is one of the most unhealthy food products that a human being can consume. The way it's prepared. The amount of MSG that it has. The canned beef where our honorable member was exposing on television is also unhealthy. Any processed food that we import is detrimental to our health. So, this is an opportunity that this government and any future government needs to realize and invest in our local agro-productive sector to be able to make sure that we produce what we eat. So, what do we produce in Belize, Madam Speaker, that can be enhanced? We are good at cattle, but they know they allow us to sell it. We can produce sugar. In the Kaya district, we produce grains, beans, soybeans, corn. We produce vegetables. We have a livestock industry. We need to now step it up and enhance those. And we need to start investing in manufacturing. We need to start making sure that we can also take those products registered in court because of the booth. You want to give the name, boss? All right. So, listen to me. The rural communities are the last registered in court because of the booth. You want to give the name, boss? All right. So, listen to me. The rural communities are the last to receive any assistance from this government. And right now, the rural communities, apart from everything else, we are starving. We, proportionally, Madam Speaker, we are the ones that have the formal employment is not our strength. We are farmers. At least fall under some of them. Madam Speaker, our people now have access to internet so they can input the data that's necessary. They not got credit in on their phone for call. The number we have to call 50 times to get through once. All we can do is try and try to inspire others to try to help. I can give you a positive thing, member from Port Loyal. And this is something I am proud of. In the Kaya South Division, the local leaders have put it on their shoulders to find a way to work inter-village so that they can barter products, so that they can help each other. They have done it with some of the community health workers too, Madam Speaker. They are in communication with each other. So the poor, as maybe the residents of the urban areas. So in this pandemic that we are facing, we need help in the Kaya district with fire, outing of fire. We need help with water, basic services. You know, we know they ask for no luxury items. Access to water. And find a way for the food to reach the people, not money. They can't even... So they call me and say, boss, what not debit card on? Community in Kaya South in Kettle Village called Arizona that was locked off. Police locked off the community from going in and out. Now I can understand there might have been reason to lock them off. But you can't lock them off and not give them food. You can't lock them off and not give them water. Access to water. Cronies were seen here, that is why our leader is there with him, so that he can look at the larger picture. And that is what we are asking, Madam Speaker. The rural communities need help. The rural communities pay their taxes. The rural communities are also Belizean. But we got a next problem which maybe people politically don't want to speak of. But there's a large percentage of our population that have residency. These are Belizeans that the only difference is that they can't vote. But they're legal in the country. They pay their taxes. They have every other absolutely no right to collect the food. Because the things have to be Belizean only. You're wrong, and that's one of the criteria was stated. the Carly do. All I'm saying is, apart from what I said, there is no malicious intent. But we are all human beings. And we get kind of antsy when somebody tells you something that you don't want to hear. But we are above that. We are trying to give you the information that can help more people. We are trying to give you advice that can enhance what has been started already. And we are hoping that we don't give up our human and constitutional rights in achieving what needs to be achieved. That is all we are saying, Madam Speaker. Thank you very much for the opportunity given.
The National Assembly in a crisis like this. And I want to applaud all the Belizean people, including the member for Kayo South, the member for Lake Independence, and the co-chair of the committee, who have been doing a tremendous job as leaders. You know how much people say to me, through the efforts of the Honorable Cordell Hyde and through the efforts of the Honorable Julius Espat and the co-chair, the Honorable member from Orange Walk Central, they are getting through. This is the first time, Madam Speaker, I have ever seen. As a country, we have pulled together, all political sides have pulled together. And so, to dispel this thing, man, people in this country, really they pull together the proper way. And then I'll say, apart from that, 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. Maybe some members in this house are too naive to know that the major part of NEMO is the Ministry of Human Development, in disaster, NEMO is just a shell, in a disaster, the Ministry of Human Development takes over. So 6 of one and half a dozen the other, we are utilizing to the most, Mr. Leader from the Orange Walk Central, we are utilizing the most, the services, also the infrastructure and the physical service of the people there. I could tell you to date, especially in the rural, in the urban constituency, 80% of the people who needed food have already been addressed already, Madam Speaker. And I don't want to harp over that because I believe that, and bring stats to this house also, because it is the people right, and we are continuing on. And also too, I have to applaud the workers of my ministry, Ministry of Human Development, who is responsible for the safety net of this country, COVID or no COVID. They are frontline workers too, everybody talk only about health also. We, the Ministry of Human Development, and we have a plan. All the disasters were happening in this country since 2008. It was shadowed by the Ministry of Human Development. We have people who work hard, who knows the system. Madam Speaker, when this program launched, the food package program, we had enough information to be able to assist immediately because we had the information, but we never have the money. We have a database, and so at the end of the day, I could say to you, I don't see there is no urging in terms of people starving in the country. And Madam Speaker, to that end, the Ministry of Human Development have partnered and is partnering with the agriculture industry locally. In other words, that we are looking on the ground to see, Mr. Member from Kayo South, the products, the good products that the people from Kayo South produce, so we'll be able to buy it from them, Madam Speaker, in partnership with the business. We are looking on as well, partnering with the local business store in the communities, Madam Speaker. it is, I don't want to corner the shout like everything, Madam Speaker, but I am saying, for the most part, the Belizean people, including the opposition, church leaders, everybody have been pulling their weight together. Never yet in this country, I see people that behave so. Even when the food program never made the roll off the proper way and never started the proper way, you see neighbors helping neighbors with food, brother. So I don't want to take this thing here to no political level, Madam Speaker. And I'm telling you, we are getting through, and even at the end of the day, it's just like anything else. The shoes, they are 2 foot of shoes, you know. Because even on this side, because of the process, your own colleague, they say, only PUP they get. Then you hear for the next side, only UDP they get. And I'm saying to you, my brother, and I tell you, for the most part, you know, Mr. Hyde know, and most standard bearers and representatives know, the process is to help your brother and your sister, and they have been doing that fairly well, and I applaud that. So we are getting through. Everything is not fine and rosy and dandy, but we are getting through, and I want to make the assurance to you, sir. The policy of the government, the policy of the ministry, we have said it over and over, there is nothing on that farm. If you're there in a Belize illegally, sir, you are entitled to a food package. This is a humanitarian effort, sir. So what you do? You're there, you done there, we are left to make your day. So there is nothing on none of the farm there, sir, in terms of clarification. And I have said it over and over, so the fact remains the same. At the end of the day, this is a humanitarian effort, Madam Speaker. And no information that the ministry get will be given out. A matter of fact, that we had a problem with one of the stores who were posting the people when we get the package. That is breach of confidentiality. And we stopped that immediately, sir. So I'm saying to you, no information is being dispersed to no political operatives, including myself. I not even know who do the interviews. But we say constant again, it's a humanitarian effort, Madam Speaker, and every single soul. Government is committed to every single soul and every single family, red or blue, it don't matter what kind of religion they're in, that we will be able to help you, to feed you at this point in time. I never want to go through this long one, but the program is working, Madam Speaker, and people don't starve yet in this country. We have rolled out in the rural constituency because the capability of the rural stores to provide the goods were not there. But with the help of NEMO, 6 or 1.5, another than the other, and human development, which are the frontline ministry responsible, and the BDF also. We were rolling off in the villages in Punta Gorda. We do about 5 villages remotely in the rural constituency, and we are continuing on. And furthermore to that, Madam Speaker, we are enhancing the farmers in the area by buying their product to distribute even amongst the villagers. And we are doing it both in terms of livestock also too, Madam Speaker. So just to say, man, I really applaud everybody in this effort. And I can't point no finger for nobody because everybody put in the pound. Who want to run, who no want to run, who the minister, who the not minister, who want to be minister, everybody they put in the pound. And you know you put in the pound because the got list of people that don't apply to, and they are getting through, sir. So I just say, I don't want to play politics with Madam Speaker, but I support the motion.
Madam Speaker, in accordance with Standing Order 12.8, I move that the proceedings on the order paper may be entered upon and proceeded with at this day's sitting at any hour though opposed.
Honorable members, the question is that the proceedings on the order paper may be entered upon and proceeded with at this day's sitting at any hour though opposed. All those in favor kindly say aye. Those against kindly say no. Ayes have it. Prime Minister.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I was disappointed at the shrill, strident, and partisan rhetoric coming from those on the other side during what I thought would have been a straightforward session of this Honorable House to deal simply with the question of the extension of the state of emergency. But I won't be drawn into any sort of in-kind response, Madam Speaker. I will make this point. The last speaker on that side said something about the party leader having pushed. That's how I understood what he was saying. That's what I understood what he was saying to me. His party leader having pushed for this unity effort. Well, please, let the facts speak for themselves.
I'm sorry, Prime Minister. Check your mic, committee. The mic, I think it needs a little bit more volume. Go ahead.
Yeah, is this better, Madam Speaker?
It's still
Hello?
not. It's
Yeah.
better now?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Let the facts speak for themselves. When I realized that we were going to be overtaken by this particular crisis, I reached out to your leader and I reached out to all the social partners to propose the formation of this National Oversight Committee so that we could deal with the crisis in the only way that the circumstances call for, in terms of a national unity effort. And throughout, I have been clear in maintaining my focus and my insistence on treating this thing in the way it should be treated and in refusing to allow it to be infected by any kind of partisan games. So when that kind of one-upmanship is resorted to this morning, I do feel upset, but Madam Speaker, I'm not going to quarrel. That I have to be bigger than they are. I have to recognize that I must be true to the instincts that guided me at the start. I must be true to the recognition that nothing other than a national unity effort can suffice in the current point. That contrary to what the member for Kayo South was saying, there has been no effort, and there is certainly nothing on the application form with respect to the food assistance program. No effort to exclude a single solitary soul. When he, perhaps Madam Speaker, so that I can be sure to hew to my undertaking not to respond in kind, I can maybe make light of something. When he insisted, that is the member for Kayo South, to the Minister of Human Development, that he could bring the list, he could show him the form and point to the fact that there was an exclusion of non-Belizeans. I had to remember that the last time he promised to show us something in writing was when we were here debating and the question of the Chief Justice's, the then Chief Justice's ruling with respect to the supplementary appropriations was part of the debate. And when he waved around a piece of paper and said he actually had the order of the Chief Justice, he had the written order of the Chief Justice, and that he could show it to me. You know, the Chief Justice has gone, and there is still no such order? No such order. So, Madam Speaker, I only make that point.
No, Madam Speaker, that's not true.
Is that a point of order?
We have the recordings here,
Is
so
it
let
a
him go
point
back
of
and get the
order
facts. That's
for
all
some
I'm saying. That
clarification?
is not
What is it?
true.
Go ahead.
So, Madam Speaker, I know that the Belizean people will believe the Minister of Human Development rather than the member for KSO. But, Madam Speaker, let me repeat that while I never expected that holding together the unity effort would be anything like plain sailing, and while I always conceded that unity does not mean uniformity, while I always conceded that, as one of them said, the opposition must reserve the right to speak with a different voice on any of the particular issues that arise as we proceed on this journey. What I could never have expected is this. This motion before the House today asks for an extension of the state of emergency for 2 months. Madam Speaker, this is not something that I came up with on my own. This is not something that the Cabinet of Belize came up with. This is something that was fully and thoroughly discussed at the National Oversight Committee, which the leader of the opposition chairs. And it was only after that thoroughgoing discussion, because we talked about the various options, that the vote was taken that resulted in the National Oversight Committee, in effect, directing me to bring to the House the motion for an extension of the state of emergency for 2 months. That vote of the National Oversight Committee was unanimous. The leader of the opposition was part of that unanimity. It is not, Madam Speaker, as though the leader of the opposition said to the rest of us on the committee, well, listen, I agree with 2 months, but I have to enter a reservation. I will have to go check with some others before I can actually sign on. No. He took full and robust part in the discussion, and he voted unambiguously, without entering any kind of reservation, for us to propose the resolution to the National Assembly for a 2-month extension. You turn around 2 days after and you go back on that vote? Nobody would have faulted him if he had said at the time that he absolutely supported 2 months. Listen, I do this because that is how I personally feel, but I serve notice on you that I will have to consult with my party, and so I reserve a final position. Nothing like that. You can't have it both ways. You can't say you're part of a national unity effort. You can't come to a meeting where, with all the social partners and with the government, you agree on a particular course of action, and then you change your mind 2 days later. You stand exposed to the Belizean people. You know, let me just underscore this point. From the time the leader of the opposition made a statement on Holy Saturday where he talked about contemplating the PUP, contemplating its options, and he asserted that, well, there was no longer any certainty on their part as to continuing with the unity effort. I didn't answer him. I didn't answer him. And I think this action today is in that same vein. Well, I need to tell you, Madam Speaker, I need to tell this House, I need to tell the leader of the opposition, and I need to tell the People's United Party. I will do absolutely nothing to encourage any kind of breakup of that national unity effort. So he can act in a way that I might consider bad faith. He can holler what he wants to holler. He can scream till the cows come home. I will not respond. If he and the PUP want to go, let them go on their own. We will continue to focus on national unity. We will continue to do everything we can to show the complete good faith that the circumstances require. And we, Madam Speaker, even if the opposition leader and his party want to go, I am positive, together with the social partners, we will absolutely see this thing through for the sake of the Belizean people. Now, Madam Speaker, ultimately, where are we? There is a motion before the House. I am not sure what is the position of those on the other side. They say that they have their own proposal, and that their proposal is that the state of emergency should only be extended for 1 month. But that is not what is before the House. And they didn't seek to amend the motion. So where are they? Are they, in fact, despite what it now turns out is a reservation, are they supporting the 2-month extension or not? Because if they don't support it, and if indeed they had a majority, if today for some reason or one of my people didn't turn up and there was a balance, so the motion to extend the state of emergency would fall? Madam Speaker, as I said, I will do nothing to encourage their departure from the national unity effort, but I do want to ask, Madam Speaker, that for as long as they choose to continue, and I would hope that is until the crisis is ended, may turn out differently, but for as long as they choose to continue, please demonstrate good faith, demonstrate consistency, demonstrate, Madam Speaker, an understanding of the need to put country before party. When the leader of the opposition spoke, I understood him to be saying, well, 60 days is too long. And he went on to talk at some length about the reopening of the economy. When the member for Lekai spoke, he said, as he heard 60 days, he cringed. But then he went on to tell us that people not for freak out at the notion of a further lockdown. So where is he? Where is he? If people are not to freak out at the notion of a further lockdown, and if they are to listen to all he said about the dangers that still beset us, then they would think that he in fact supports the 60 days. But he started off suggesting he didn't, but everything in the rest of his presentation suggested he did. So after they finished, the two of them, I was at a loss to understand what the true position is. And then came the third one. akin to what the British have done. My friend, the British do not have a written constitution. You understand? That's the big difference between them and us. We have a written constitution. Any such law as they pass, without our doing what we are doing today by way of a resolution of the House to extend the state of emergency, any such law, I bet you 5 against 10 would be, I will give you 10, wager 10, for 5 you can put up half of that, and I bet you, Madam Speaker, that such a law would be struck down by our courts. We go this route because we have a written constitution that expressly provides for circumstances such as these. Expressly talks about the proclamation that the Governor General originally made when there is an outbreak of an infectious disease, and expressly says that once that outbreak is still continuing, it is for the National Assembly to extend the emergency originally proclaimed by the Governor General. So, Madam Speaker, what we are doing is absolutely in line with our Constitution, is in fact mandated by the Constitution of this country. And, Madam Speaker, the member for Lekai was absolutely right when he said people should not cringe at the thought of a further lockdown. No, they should not, because the continuation of the state of emergency for 2 months does not mean that they will necessarily be locked down for 2 months. 2 things. The Constitution makes clear, and the recital, part of the recitals to the motion, makes clear that you can come back to Parliament at any time, and by way of a simple resolution, you can bring an end to the state of emergency. But more than that, the state of emergency, the extension of the state of emergency, the original proclamation by the Governor General, these things are enabling measures. The proclamation enables a state of emergency, but what is critical is the regulations passed under the state of emergency. And we have already signaled that when the current regulation expires, as it does on April 30th, the new regulation that we will draft will be carefully calibrated, Madam Speaker, will be done in consequence of a judicious exercise to make sure that we come up with the kind of balance that the circumstances require. And again, that new statutory instrument, once the House approves this resolution and once the Senate approves it tomorrow, that new statutory instrument will come into force on May 1st. The contents of that statutory instrument will be finalized only after the National Oversight Committee, having listened to the advice of Dr. Manzanero and the entire public health team from the Ministry of Health, having listened to the recommendations that are coming from the National Task Force and the economic czars, when all that is done, the National Oversight Committee will give, as it were, the drafting instructions to the Attorney General and to the Solicitor General. And I repeat, Madam Speaker, we fully expect that if there are no new cases between now and when that draft is produced on Thursday to be signed by the Governor General into law so that it takes effect on May the 1st. If there are no new cases, we fully expect that the advice coming from the task force, the advice coming from the Ministry of Health, will permit of some lessening, some relaxation. We all agree that you do not lose sight of the fact in the crisis that the economy is crumbling. We all agree that as the as the financial secretary put in writing to me, because the revenue sources have completely dried up, when they talk about the food program and all that, they don't have a clue as to how we find the money to be able to fund these things, you know. When they talk about the unemployment relief cash payments, they don't have a clue as to where the money is coming from and as to how we can get that kind of money. When they talk about some $250 million stimulus package, they don't have a clue as to how we put that sort of thing together. Because, Madam Speaker, I repeat, the Financial Secretary has said to me, look, the recurrent revenue that we budgeted for, 1.13 billion, we will fall short by just a little under half of that. There will be more than a $400 million shortfall in recurrent revenue. Notwithstanding, we find, as a matter of ingenuity, resourcefulness, pressing the international financial institutions, we are finding and will continue to find all the money that is necessary to maintain the programs we have put in place to look after the economic welfare of the Belizean people. And of course, we're going to have a business continuity plan. So, Madam Speaker, the point I want to make is that absolutely, one of them, I think, I'm not sure which of the three, said we have to keep the borders closed. How are you going to do that without a state of emergency? We tried to use at one point the Quarantine Act. For some other measures, we used the Public Health Act. When the member for Kaya South talks about the trampling on human rights, it is when you, that's why he's talking foolishness when he talks about patterning ourselves off the British model. Madam Speaker, it is when you try to go by way of ordinary laws that you get yourself into trouble. Because those ordinary laws that seek to abridge fundamental rights in the face of a crisis will run up against the Constitution unless you can balance them in such a way that you absolutely don't go too far. When you act on the basis of what the Constitution not only entitles you, but almost mandates you to do, you are clearly on far firmer ground. And that is how we're going to proceed, Madam Speaker, making sure that the state of emergency, notwithstanding that the regulation to be passed thereunder will, unless, as I said, something dramatic happens between now and the drafting of that regulation, while we're going to make sure that the regulation provides some easing, some reopening of the economy, we all agree that that reopening cannot be pell-mell. It has to be, as I said, particularly judiciously crafted. And for sure, they, at least I think the last two speakers on their side, are of one mind with us in recognizing that the borders certainly are not going to be reopened before 60 days. Again, because that reopening those borders doesn't just depend on how well we are doing internally. It depends on how our neighbors are doing. And when you hear the Minister of Health talking about the way the cases in Quintana Roo have skyrocketed, when we see what's happening in the States, when, again, the Minister of Health has to say to the Belizean people in the north, don't continue going to Mexico by way of these illegal crossings. Look at what is happening in Mexico with respect to the province that immediately borders Belize. All that goes to say, Madam Speaker, that, to repeat myself, there will be no opening. It clear that we were going to go for the 2-month extension of the state of emergency. They say, well, basically, you're telling the airlines, the U.S. carriers, not to come for the duration of that 60 days. Yes, indeed, that's what it amounts to. But state of emergency or no state of emergency, once the circumstances remain what they are in the States, in Mexico, there is no way we would be able to reopen our borders. There is no way we would be able to invite tourists to come back to Belize before the 60 days are up that we're talking about in terms of this extension motion. So, Madam Speaker, to conclude, we are absolutely clear that Cayo Fire has nothing to do with this motion, sir. We already brought an SI to deal with the Cayo Fires. Madam Speaker, and you are not even a piece of paper, sir. You talk about a paper figure, you are not even that. Madam Speaker, may I continue so I can conclude?
Continue, Prime Minister.
So I can conclude. So, Madam Speaker, we are in no doubt that this is the correct vehicle, this motion, the extension of the state of emergency is the correct methodology. We repeat that this is absolutely necessary in the context of the larger, the paramount issue of health. It will not prevent us from doing some reopening of economic activity, economic and business activity in this country. We are fortified that it is not just the government that is of this view, that all the other members of the National Oversight Committee, the National Trade Union Congress of Belize, the Belize Council of Churches, the National NGO Organization, all are in support of what we have brought to the House this morning, this motion to extend the state of emergency for 60 days. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honourable members, that will be referred to the Constitution and Foreign Affairs Committee for examination, consideration, and report. Prime Minister?
Yes?
Madam Speaker, I seek the indulgence of the Honourable House to have this motion taken through all its stages this day.
Honourable members, the question is that this motion be taken through all its stages this day. All those in favour, kindly say aye. Aye. Those against, kindly say no. The ayes have it.
Announcement by the Speaker.
Honourable members, it has been agreed that the extending the period of public emergency in the country of Belize declared by proclamation of the Governor General on April 1st, 2020, Motion 2020, passed this day. As you are aware, under Standing Order number 74, all proposed legislation, messages, petitions, motions, and other matters relating to the subject mentioned under the title of each standing committee shall be referred by the House to such committee for examination, consideration, and report to the House. The only way for this to be done, other than by suspension of the standing orders, is for me to suspend the sitting to enable the Constitution and Foreign Affairs Committee to examine and consider and report to the House on the motion. All those in favor, kindly say aye. Those against, kindly say no. The ayes have it. The sitting is therefore suspended until the Constitution and Foreign Affairs Committee has concluded its business.
Speaks, coughs, or sneezes. These droplets can land in the mouths or noses of people who are nearby. These droplets are too heavy to travel far in the air. They only travel approximately 1 meter and quickly settle on surfaces. This is the reason person-to-person spread is happening mainly between close contacts. The exact time that the virus can survive on surfaces is not yet known. So it is wise to clean surfaces regularly, particularly in the vicinity of people infected with COVID-19. Hands touch many surfaces, which can be contaminated with the virus. You should therefore avoid touching your eyes, nose, or mouth, since contaminated hands can transfer the virus from the surface to yourself. When coughing or sneezing, cover your mouth and nose with the bend of your elbow or use a disposable tissue. If a tissue is used, discard it immediately into a closed bin. The most effective way to prevent the spread of the new coronavirus is to clean your hands frequently with an alcohol-based hand rub or soap and water. This will eliminate the virus if it is on your hands. Stay healthy and prevent the spread of COVID-19.
During stressful times, what children need most is you, a safe, secure relationship. The actions you take will greatly affect how they cope with the stress of the outbreak. Here are tips you can follow to help reassure children. Stay calm and be kind. It's understandable we will experience frustration and anxiety. However, discuss your own questions and worries about COVID-19 when your child is not around, and resist the urge to outwardly show frustration in the presence of children. Lastly, limit your child's exposure to media about COVID-19. Don't allow rumors to dominate your conversations. Focus on up-to-date scientific information from official sources such as the Ministry of Health's Facebook page or the World Health Organization, WHO. Keep daily routines as consistent as possible for your child. A familiar structure will reassure and help prevent anxiety. For more information, visit our website.
Presentation of report from committee.
I recognize the chairman of the Constitution and Foreign Affairs Committee.
Madam Speaker, I rise to lay on the table sessional paper number HR 260/1/12, report from the Constitution and Foreign Affairs Committee on the extending the period of the public emergency in the country of Belize, declared by proclamation of the Governor General on April 1st, 2020, motion 2020.
Honorable members, that report is ordered to lie on the table.
Public business, government business, motion.
I recognize the Honorable Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, with your permission not to repeat the recitals, I move. Now therefore be it resolved that this Honourable House, being satisfied that a period of public emergency persists in the entire country of Belize as a result of the outbreak of the infectious disease known as COVID-19, hereby extends the period of public emergency in the country of Belize for a further period of 2 months.
Honourable members, the question is, now therefore be it resolved that this Honourable House, being satisfied that a period of public emergency persists in the entire country of Belize as a result of the outbreak of the infectious disease known as COVID-19, hereby extends the period of public emergency in the country of Belize for a further period of 2 months. All those in favor kindly say aye. Those against kindly say no. The ayes have it. Adjournment. Right, Honourable Prime Minister?
Madam Speaker, I move that the House do now adjourn.
I won't be long. In my caucus with the parliamentarians, there was a suggestion, Madam Speaker, that if we can consider amending the standing orders on the section 89, the amendment of the standing orders, then we'll go to your subcommittee of the Constitution and Foreign Affairs. The amendment is a simple one, Madam Speaker. This is history. First time we have a meeting with just 7 because of the virus, the situation that we have right now. The suggestion we have, if we can amend the standing orders to allow for virtual meetings, so that whenever we have this kind of emergency, then the standing orders can recognize us having virtual meetings. That is my recommendation, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Opposition Leader. The discussion is an interesting one because the standing orders need to be revised in any event for a number of reasons. So we will certainly discuss with the clerk and the Constitution Committee as well, because we have that on the table. We've just had to suspend it because of the COVID emergency. So honourable members, the question is that the House do now adjourn. All those in favor, kindly say aye. Those against, kindly say no. The ayes have it. The House now stands adjourned. We can speak in the back.